Embracing the Promises. My name is Daniel Vallis from InformedChristians.com, a website ministry devoted to discerning current events from a Christian and biblical perspective. Thank you so much for those who pray for this ministry and those who financially support this ministry as well. Your prayers and support is so greatly appreciated. I need prayers for strength and wisdom of what to say, what to research. It's amazing to see how the Lord has been giving wisdom and knowledge, bringing so much together right now. But I definitely need physical strength, I need emotional strength, I need spiritual strength this time too, because we are in a battle right now. Satan knows what time it is. So we need your prayers, and thank you for all those who do pray for this ministry. This week there are a number of small reminder celestial events. The moon is going to be in Leo, and has been yesterday and today and tomorrow, drawing our attention to this celestial sign right as we're drawing to the end of the time frame with it. So I went out last night and took some pictures of Jupiter and the moon. You can see the moon right there, and then right next to it a little star, that's Regulus, and then Jupiter right there. And this is just at twilight, so you can see how brightly they are just at twilight. They really stand out, they really catch your eye, especially as the moon is closer to night as well. And Regulus is often called the heart of the lion, of Leo the lion. And again, drawing our attention to this celestial sign, we need to look up and we see the brightest object in the night sky right now, the moon, right with the second brightest, Jupiter, right in Leo, right in Judah right now. Drawing our attention to this sign that God has told us, look up, you're going to see something that tells you that our redemption is drawing nigh. And here's a zoom in of the moon and Regulus, the heart, and then here's a zoom in of Jupiter and the hind foot, and here's a line to help you see where it's at. As well, it's getting closer and closer as just a few more days. Now on the 9th, the moon is going to be right next to Jupiter too as well, definitely drawing attention to both Jupiter and where it's at, right at the hind foot. So some places will have a better view of it than others, but so many celestial signs drawing our attention to what we should be looking at right now. We should be looking up. We should be lifting up our heads, and not only just our heads but our heart, lifting up our heart, getting ready for our Redeemer, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. So again, definitely make sure you go out and see it. Look in a westerly direction about an hour after the sun sets, and you'll have a good chance of seeing both the moon and Jupiter. If you can find the moon, Jupiter is going to be real close nearby. If you are new to this channel, definitely stop by our website, our Exodus 2 landing page. We have a lot of resources to quickly catch you up on the speed of all the celestial signs that God has been showing us, the tapestry of redemption, drawing our attention to where we are right now. God has shown us so many things that it would be foolish to not pay attention to them and give more diligence and more study into study. Is God showing us something right now? And for those who have been here a while, yes, it does appear that God is showing us an amazing tapestry of redemption right now. And you will note on our time frame and our other materials, we refer to that we are in the month of Av right now. And on our website, we have a description right there in the FAQ section about the calendar we are using. So either pause this video right now and read it, or go to the website and read it. We have a new resource you can download called Raisings, Resurrections, and Returnings. Just answers some questions about what will happen to the hypocrites, what will happen to the casualties during the tribulation, who comes back, what is the first resurrection, what is the second resurrection. So definitely download that. We'll talk about that in a future video, Lord willing. But then definitely study the timeline, the Tapestry of Redemption, which records a lot of the celestial events, rare and unique celestial events that happened just within the past few months and year, drawing our attention to where we are today. We've been looking at the signs in heavens for the past year, seeing that God is showing us something very amazing. And so now we find ourselves right at the finish line of that major celestial event, which is accompanied by promises that He's going to be gathering His people. And everything we have seen so far leads us to act in faith and embrace the promises that we see in the future. So definitely study our booklet, Exodus 2, The Bride Goes to the King's House, which covers a lot of the celestial signs we saw leading up to Purim, and then a little bit beyond that, but then also the picture of Esther and how she had a year of purification and preparation. And likewise, as the bride of Christ, we should be getting ready for our Redeemer, making sure we are living in light of His return. And then definitely download the Sign of Shiloh sheet, which has a lot of condensed information, all the talking points and study points all on one sheet. And right now we find ourselves with just a few days left. We're in the month of Av and approaching some very significant days. The 9th of Av, which of course we talked about before, deals with the destruction of the temple, the two temples in Jewish history. But then we also talked about how it tied to the generation and how even it ties to our concept of understanding the last generation now. And we talked about how some of the ancient men who had seen the very first temple wept many decades later when they saw the second temple being rebuilt. And that's the same shadow that we've been looking and applying to understanding the last generation. People who saw the very beginning of prophetic events unfold in this generation will also see the end. And they will be able to give witness that yes, God's word is true. What he said the first time did come true. But then the 9th of Av also marks when the tribes were told that they were not allowed to go into the promised land. They did not embrace the promises. The 12 spies brought back so many proofs and wonderful evidences of what God had said was true. He told them the promised land was flowing with milk and honey and very abundant. And they brought back the proof and they showed the people and they told the people, yes, it's there. But then 10 of those spies spread an evil report and the people believed them instead of Joshua and Caleb. And we talked about before in Numbers 14:26 how God heard what those evil spies said. And this should sober us up right now. We see so many prophecies coming together right now. We have seen with the last generation and all the 40 signs that God said would happen in that generation have happened. We detail them out on the poster. Then we detail out all the major celestial, rare, unique celestial signs that happened just within the past year, drawing us to this sign, Shiloh. We have seen so much. We have seen the fruits of the promises of God and how it ties in with Scripture. And so we should be very sober and we should be very circumspect in how we talk about these promises because God says He does hear what we say about His promises. And what we say can influence other people of how they embrace the promises too as well. So we should be very sober about what we say at this time because God treats His promises very seriously. He treated them very seriously with the promised land and He treated them very seriously with the temples as well. Particularly the second temple when He made His triumphal entry and He fulfilled prophecy and He came and nobody was ready and watching for Him. So not only are we in the final days of the Shiloh sign in Jupiter, but it has brought us full circle a year later right after the Star of Bethlehem sign. We had a year of purification and preparation. So we're brought to the doorstep of the month of Av. We're just days away from significant shadow reminders on the day about entering the promised land and the king returning and fulfilling prophecy. We're in the days of Noah and Lot. So much coming together right now that should draw our attention and sober us up and make us sit up in our chair that, wow, we need to pay attention. There is something very significant that God is drawing our attention to right now. And then on top of all that, we had talked about how the month of Av is associated with Leo the lion because of all the lion references in this month. But then we had also mentioned before that all the different months are associated with different tribes. And back around the time of Passover, we had mentioned that the first month, Nisan, is associated with Judah because of the royal line. So who is the month of Av associated with? Well, the tribe of the month for now is Simeon, which is very interesting because his name means hear, hearing, and listen. And this should sober us up, especially when we consider that it is landing right now in this month, in these final days, the message, the reminder to hear, listen. What does that remind us of from the letters to the 7 churches? Have you read Revelation chapter 2 and 3? What does he finish every single letter with? Reminding every single church that they need to do. What does he remind them? He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He's saying, do you hear? Are you listening? I'm trying to call your attention. The Spirit, the Holy Spirit is going to be working in your heart to be calling your attention at the end times, getting you ready for the Lord's return. I'm coming quickly. He says that in the letters. And he makes a big emphasis. Hear, hear. And we find ourselves right in a month with a few days right before the sign that we're looking at. And we have a prominent reminder the entire month is about hear. Are you hearing? The letters to the 7 churches, he's giving a big hint. Hear, hear, listen. We have so much calling our attention to right now. Are you listening? Do you have an ear to hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches? When we look at the Genesis 49:10 passage, I had briefly mentioned it before, but this passage goes into the future even beyond where we are right now. This is a very prophetic passage. A lot of people try to dismiss it by saying, oh, that's already been fulfilled. No, there's several large portions of it that have not been fulfilled yet. This is a very prophetic passage that has not been fulfilled. And most prophetic passages in Scripture have a twofold application. They'll usually have a first application when they are applied, but then sometimes they'll have a second application, a twofold. Well, they'll be on a larger pattern. And usually the first serves as a pattern for understanding the second. So when we look at this prophecy about Judah, obviously the first application is about the historical figure, Judah, the son of Jacob, and how he was associated with lion. And their tribe, that became their emblem and on their standard. And then also they're associated, of course, with the constellation too as well. So that was the first application. And then on the next part, on a first level reading, it was talking about how the Messiah, the Redeemer, and the royal line would come from Judah, from his physical seed. And that was fulfilled with the line of David. And this part talked about how Judah would be so prosperous and it'd be nothing for them just to tie their donkeys to the grapevines because they'd have so many of them. It was an idea of prosperity, and that was true too as well. And more references to prosperity, and the more references to living in a land of milk and prosperity, and he was going to have the best to eat. And as the royal line, he did. And in the capital city, Jerusalem there too as well. So a lot of this came true on a first application level. But then on the second application, twofold, it does tell us about the Lion of the tribe of Judah. We know that Jesus Christ is the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And then also him as the King of Kings would come through that line too as well. And we saw that in connection with the Star of Bethlehem signs, which were in connection with Judah the Lion. All this is connected and coming together. And then at that time, he took the second application of riding a colt into Jerusalem, the capital of the nation of Judah. And all the references to lion, we have all that on the sheet too as well. So he took that to the next level. And what we're expecting next is the fulfillment of the second part when Shiloh comes again to gather his people. Particularly in reference to the people he came for in the first time, he came to be a light unto the Gentiles. And that was Paul's understanding and the apostles' understanding. We talked about that before and have that on the reference sheet too as well. And in our video, A Light unto the Gentiles, definitely watch that. So this is what we're expecting, but it is connected to the first part. So we should expect in the second application and fulfillment of the second part here to mirror and have similarities to the fulfillment of the first time. And it has caught our attention that this is what we're expecting right now. And we see two Star of Bethlehem signs in Judah the Lion. Just like the first time. This has definitely caught our attention. And even mainstream media was talking about the Star of Bethlehem sign that we saw last year. Hadn't happened in 2,000 years. And this is why I say there's no plan B. We have so many one-time, one-shot signs calling our attention right now. And God has been working over the past year to call our attention that the king is coming, just like the Star of Bethlehem the first time. That's what they were there for, to tell and point the wise men, those who were wise, those who rose up and followed and acted on the promises and embraced them. They got to see the king. And that is our hope right now. We are looking for the gathering of Messiah's people to go into the promised land too as well. We've seen reminder signs almost exactly pointing us in the exact same constellation too as well. All we see right now is that time is running out on that clock, but we've already seen that the signs are there. The midnight call has gone out. The bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. We're getting ready right now. But this is not the limitations of this prophetic passage because it goes even more into the future. This is a mini tapestry right here alone. Because after he gathers his people later on in prophecy, he's going to be coming back at Armageddon. And the whole word picture painted there at Armageddon is about treading out the winepress and the blood being up to the horse's bridle. This is the picture in the latter part of this prophecy. That still hasn't been fulfilled yet either. And then the last portion references and intimates to the time of the millennium when it's going to start out with the marriage feast of the Lamb, when he's going to be drinking the second cup as part of the Jewish wedding model custom. And references wine and the new land of milk and honey. There's an entire mini tapestry right here that still has not been fulfilled for large portions of it. And when we look at the book of Revelation, this also tells us the story and tapestry too as well. Because when we opened up, the book of Revelation really is not a long book at all. You have the introduction where Jesus meets John again and tells him that these letters are for the churches. You know, the book of Revelation was written for the churches as a warning. This is what's going to happen. Live in light of it or you're going to be in it. So there's the introduction, and then he goes straight into the letters to the 7 churches. And he ends every single one with, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. Hint, hint, hear. He's giving a big clue. And he even tells you, I'm coming back quickly. He that hath an ear to hear. Are we listening? Are we listening? So then immediately after the letters to the 7 churches, the very next verse is the rapture pictured. And we see this in Revelation 4:1. After this I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven, and the first voice which I heard was as it were of a trumpet talking with me, which said, Come up hither. And this is what we're listening for. We're not listening for the trumpets of judgment that happened during the tribulation. No, we're listening for the trumpet of God's voice, which was the exact same voice and trumpet sound that was at Mount Sinai when he called the people to assembly there. And we're looking to be gathered to assembly up in heaven with the trumpet voice of God. So that is pictured right after he was warning them, I'm coming quickly. So that is the next item on the agenda. And then it gets into a brief description of John describing what he sees there in heaven in the throne room of God. And then it goes into describing how his people are there with the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Right in that passage, right after the rapture picture, right after he's making it very clear, I'm in the throne room of heaven, he describes what he sees. He sees the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He's exactly explaining Shiloh has now gathered his people. They are now here with him. Revelation 5, Weep not, behold the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof. And he also saw him as a lamb, the lamb that was slain. And down in verse 9, the people are saying, For thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation, and hast made us unto our God kings and priests. Here the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, is with his people finally. He has gathered them home. He has assembled them together there. The Lion and the Lamb, Jesus Christ, the Messiah, the Redeemer, Shiloh, has gathered his people at this point. And this is before the book has been even opened. The tribulation has not started yet. And so after his people thank him, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, for redeeming them out of all the tribes. Now Christ came to be a light unto the Gentiles, the whole earth. And here he is with his people that he has gathered right before the tribulation starts, and he's about to open the book. He is the one who opens the seals. He hasn't opened them yet. The rapture takes place before the tribulation even starts. And then the narration shows him, the Lamb, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, opening the seals. And the next few chapters describes the tribulation events that happened down on the earth. Jesus told his disciples quite clearly he was coming during the days of Noah and Lot, when people were living as though life goes on. Judgment had not started yet. We talk more about the book of Revelation in our binder, The Visual Guide to Understanding Prophecy, and the book of Revelation, The Times. Definitely check that out. That is a binder's worth of material. That's a lot of material in there. And in our last video, we talked about how there is no plan B. Because if one part of this does not come true, then the next part will not come true either. And a lot of people like to focus on the September Revelation 12 sign in 2017. But you need to realize if this Leo the Lion, the sign in Shiloh, doesn't happen, then the Revelation 12 sign ain't happening either, because they are connected. It's the same story. It's just a continuation of the story that started back where we are right now. When we look at the prophecy, particularly verse 10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. One thing that makes Jupiter's circuit through Leo the Lion unique this year versus in 12 years is that this year it is entirely in Leo the Lion and entirely in Judah, in its proper boundaries. And what we mean by that is if you go outside and look at the night sky and just visually draw a line mentally between the two constellations as a border between the two, Jupiter this year has been entirely in Leo's outer border. But then even if you look on modern astronomy charts, you'll see that the modern designation for the borders around Leo the Lion, Jupiter has still been in Leo the Lion this entire time on this particular circuit. And so that is a strong confirmation right there when we see, okay, yeah, it has not even departed from Judah. It has stayed in Leo, Judah the entire time. So that has caught our attention. But then it definitely caught our attention that the star Bethlehem, first time, which hadn't happened in 2,000 years, happened right inside Leo's border too as well. And that caught our attention early on. And we've just come full circle to that because that happened on June 30th. So now we've come back to one of the first warnings and the first calls at midnight saying the bridegroom's coming. Go ye out to meet him. We've been getting ready since then. So that was the first one. But then there is a second Star Bethlehem, a second rare Star Bethlehem in Leo. And that definitely drove it home because we remember that the wise men saw 2 instances of the Star Bethlehem. So that really caught our attention that, wow, the king is coming. So we can check that off right there. We have seen 2 Star Bethlehems. We have very strong reason to believe the king is coming very soon. Just with that alone. And they both happened in Judah. And so right now we find ourselves just days away from Jupiter leaving from between the feet. And so this catches our attention to the second part, but we can see that everything appears to be right on track, especially with the signs that we have seen before and in between so far as well. So everything seems to be lining up exactly like it says. And then it has caught our attention that this is right in the month of Av where we are, right when this is coming together, when the Bible says, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. That appears to be taking place right in the month of Av, which is connected with the constellation Judah for the entire month. That has not escaped our attention. And then on top of that, the month of Av is connected with Simeon, hearing. And we have been hearing and listening to the trumpet calls at midnight for the past year, and to finally have it driven home at this last mile that we need to pay attention. We need to be sober. We need to be vigilant. We need to pay attention and listen to what the Spirit is trying to tell us at this time. And on top of that, the very limit lands exactly on the day of the 9th of Av, connected to the Lion of the tribe of Judah entering Jerusalem, fulfilling prophecy. I can't make this stuff up. So many things have caught our attention and have been pulling on our ear. Are we listening? And then on top of that, it's also exactly on the day, the 9th of Av, that the tribes did not get to go into the promised land. And that's what we're looking for, the picture of the promised land, going into the promised land. Because they did not believe and did not embrace the promises. They were not listening. They were listening to the wrong people. They were listening to the wrong crowd. Who are you listening to, friend? We see so many signs in the heavens calling our attention that we need to be listening. We need to be paying attention. We need to be looking up because our redemption draweth nigh. And then when we realize that right after the letter to the 7 churches where he tells them to hear and listen, right after that is the Lion of the tribe of Judah with his people in Revelation chapter 5. And that's what we expect to transpire next on the tapestry of redemption. Right after the Lion of the tribe of Judah gathers his people, we will be in heaven with him, the one who has redeemed us. And then we will stand there and watch him open the seals of the tribulation. And then further on down the line, at the Revelation 12 sign, that's going to be the midpoint. And the Bible tells us that the countdown begins at that point. At that point, there's 1,260 days left. There's going to be some padding after that for cleanup and mop up and mourning. But 1260 days after this point, the tribulation is going to end. People know when the end of the tribulation is. When you read the book of Revelation, the armies of the Antichrist are already assembled, waiting for him. They know exactly to the day when he's coming back. The end of the tribulation is not going to surprise anybody. But the Bible doesn't tell us how many days are before the midpoint for a particular reason, because it also tells us that Satan is going to be allowed to change time for a season. And we talked about this in our video, Time CERN in the Bible, as well as our playlist, Revelation Spiral of Time, and our poster, Revelation Spiral of Time. Once you understand that component, the book of Revelation makes a lot more sense. So definitely check those out. But then when we continue along the narrative, the tapestry of redemption, 1,260 days later, comes to the tribulation end at the valley of Armageddon, where he comes to tread out the winepress, the rest of the Genesis prophecy. And then he's going to make his triumphal entry as the Lion of the tribe of Judah as he enters Jerusalem as the King of Kings. And that is going to finish the story too as well. And do you remember what gate the King of Kings is going to be entering? Jerusalem, the capital city of Judah. Jerusalem, Ariel. Do you remember which gate? The eastern gate is the one he's going to be entering through. In Numbers 2:3. And on the east side, toward the rising of the sun, shall they of the standard of the camp of Judah pitch throughout their armies. We see so much coming together right now that it would be foolish to ignore. We see so many hints and tantalizing tastes of the promised land presented before us that our Redeemer is drawing nigh and that we need to rise up and go out to meet him. On our website, we have now added this as a printable sheet. Definitely download it. Study it, add it to your collection. There is so much coming together right now. We see only a handful of days left on the countdown, But we see so much more that God is showing us and giving us fruits almost every single day, showing us He is calling our attention to this time. We have heard the trumpet call at midnight, and he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. Who are you listening to? What are you listening to? Are you getting ready? Definitely, now is the time to be ye ready. We need to be sober, we need to be vigilant. We have so much showing us we should be doing this. If we're not doing this, then we are a hypocrite. So now we must trim off, we must cast off, we must put on the armor of light. And like the wise virgins, when the trumpet call at midnight goes out, behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. Let us shine bright, and let us go out to meet him halfway. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up, and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Serve Christ, first and highest above all else. Maranatha.